Gene Koon, welcome back to Suit Up the Podcast.
Oh, thank you, Terrence. I'm glad to see you again.
It is an honor to have you on the show. You are a number one in espionage on Kobo in several Latin American countries. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I managed to get on the espionage category in number one in Peru and Argentina. Number one in Peru, Argentina. It's ranking worldwide, Malaysia, Philippines. It's like
That's
people are
awesome.
finding it. So it's really interesting to see that English speaking espionage book is doing well in Poland. And oh, hey, wait a
Here's
minute,
another try.
wait a minute. Okay, if you're going to hold that up, I got to just say I
Oh,
read
thank you.
I bought this I got this the day that it was available, and it's terrific. It's just terrific. Love the cover, love the story, the continuation. It's
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get the word out.
I appreciate it. Just a note on another try, just because I was thinking about this the other
Yeah.
day. It's interesting to think that there is a exotic appeal, I'm assuming to a certain degree, for having a espionage novel set in Oregon for an international audience.
Yeah. I looked into it and talked to some people, and they thought, well, the people in South America love a good story that's kind of cinema. It's very visual,
Hmm.
and they also, there is a cartel element to the story. I don't know. I'm not saying that could be it, but so any guess is a good one, but.
It's a well-written book, and at the end of the day, that's all that it needs is to be a good story.
Yeah. And just to let people know, so we can get this off
Hmm.
the table quickly. The hardback right now, I have nothing to do with this, but Amazon has got it on sale for like just a little over $7.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
that's not up to me, but I think, that's cheaper than the paperback. So if you're interested, now's a good time to head to Amazon.
And I'll link that in the show notes. It's got a big five-star review from me. Another Try is a really fun
Uh,
thriller espionage story. And I just love the fact that you marry a good, it feels like Fleming in a lot of ways, but then with this wonderful Elmore Leonard sensibility
yeah,
of
thank you.
dialogue and characters. There's that driver character whose name escapes me, but anytime I think of Another
Yeah.
Try, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that would be Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Yeah. Yeah. I put Jimmy through the ringer. It's like it didn't start off that way, but it's like, he was getting nervous, and then I just put him in one more situation, and he got more, and he just, you know, I started laughing, throughout, like, okay, what can I do to him next? And then like, yeah, he just took off. So he's one of my favorites.
Awesome. And speaking of taking off as a segue, we're talking the Great Waldo Pepper today,
Yes.
which, okay, I had never seen this movie before. I
Oh,
had read William Goldman's Adventures in the Screen Trade because I'm a big William Goldman fan. And I was like, how did I not know about a movie that William Goldman wrote, starring Robert Redford, directed
yeah.
by the guy who directed The Sting and Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid,
Right.
and it's got aviation. How had I not seen this?
Well,
Um,
not only that, but he wrote Princess Bride, and
yes.
that's a favorite of my daughters and mine that we watched. We memorized so many great quotes from that. But it was such a great movie. Just my wife and I, when we talked about watching the movie and having this conversation today a few months ago. Uh, I was game for it because my wife and I watched it about 6 or 7 months ago, just on a lark, like, let's watch this. And I forgot just how good it was. Just the realism. And there's one thing about going to the movies today and seeing the
Hmm.
CGI, but to see these actual, stunt pilots flying for real without models, without, they were doing it. And, a lot of people today, they're like, Tom Cruise is doing his own
Hmm.
stunts. And so, it's great. And it is great. Um, but so were these guys back in the 70s.
Oh, I
So
would 100%. I was saying we're watching the movie and I'm like, if they were to remake this today, who would be the who would be behind it? And I'm like,
Right.
really, the only person I can think of that'd be like, oh, we need to make this movie again and do the
Yeah.
exact same thing with all the stunts would be Tom Cruise.
Right.
But it's also because he has the biplane stuff at the end of the new Mission Impossible movie that makes
Yes.
me think about that. But
Yes.
two people's, so hey, audience, if you have enjoyed that bit in Mission Impossible, this is like
Oh my
that
God.
bit,
Yeah.
the movie, where
This
it's
is,
incredible biplane stunts.
yeah. Well, there's a couple of aviation movies that stand out. This one is, in the top three,
Hmm.
and the first one, I don't know if you've seen it, it's a World War II movie called The Blue Max
No.
with George Peppard
Ooh.
and James Mason. And I'm telling you, that's spectacular and very
Oh,
dark in its own
cool.
way.
And Ursula Andress, like
Yeah.
this
Yep.
hits all the right Bond references
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a terrific, yeah. So that and then you get into the World War II, Tora, and so
Hmm.
I mean, but those movies are just, aviation, it sucks me in.
Well, okay, so my just a brief recap for the audience because I'm assuming not a lot of people have seen this movie. The Great Waldo Pepper, the basic plot is it stars Robert Redford as a disaffected World War I veteran pilot who missed the opportunity to fly in combat and examines his sense of post-war dislocation in 1920s America. The cast includes Margot Kidder, who Lois Lane in Superman
Yes, that's right.
1979,
That's right.
Bo Svensson, Edward Herman,
Yeah,
which can I just say I still am shocked that when I first saw him, because this is him as a young man.
right.
I watch it and I'm like, that's the grandfather from Gilmore Girls. And I was just like,
Okay.
what?
Yeah,
And
that's
Susan
right.
Sarandon. It depicts barnstorming acts during the 1920s and the accidents that led to aviation regulations by the Air Commerce Act.
Yeah, yeah,
This sits in such an interesting pocket of history because it's aviation is people are getting more and more interested in it, but the audiences aren't as interested because they've seen the basic stunts before.
right, right.
But yet now the money is starting to come in for the actual developing aviation into an industry. And you see that tension of the frontier ending and business beginning.
Yeah, isn't that terrific? It is that. I mean, I don't want to give too many spoilers away about the movie,
We'll
and
get to it. We'll talk a bit
yeah,
about the film and then we'll drop a spoiler warning for people
yeah,
because some of the my big thoughts on this movie are related to some of the spoilers. So
right,
we'll give it
yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, but I do want to just, because we're talking about this once again, right
Oh,
here.
thank you.
Um, uh, I mean, look at the cover. Okay, it's like this is, this could be Waldo's, brother or cousin. It's just because unwanted passenger. This is I think maybe there you go. See, look at this. It's like maybe that's what attracted me to because I watched the movie, like I said several months ago, and then when I picked up Unwanted Passenger, it brought me back to that feeling that I think I had with Great
Hmm.
Waldo Pepper. And being an aviation enthusiast as I am, and those old days, and because I grew up, back in the days where those planes were still around, going to
Hmm.
flying air shows. So I really connected with your book. Um, you know, yeah, I could actually even see a younger, Robert Redford playing the movie, of Unwanted Passenger. So it just fit in really well.
Well, I was working on a little this is like my fan cast of who would play the characters in Diamonds in
Mhm.
Denver. And I had to go with I would my classic thought is to always go with old school Hollywood because
Yeah.
when I think Mitch Mayhew, I think Robert Redford, or if I'm thinking earlier, I'm like
Oh,
Cary Grant
oh
because
yeah,
that
right, right.
just
Yeah.
the charming rogue
Oh,
a bit without being too off-putting. But I couldn't do that, so I had to pick someone else. But I was like, oh, darn it, I was reminded watching this 1975 Robert Redford is like when we think of peak 90s Brad Pitt
yes.
cannot hold a candle to peak 70s Robert Redford.
Right, right. That's true. Right. Yeah, and I can actually, now that you say Cary Grant, I can actually hear the dialogue from your book with his
Oh,
voice.
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So you nailed it.
Well, okay, so this is actually something I picked up from William Goldman. Is he in one of his? I think I have More Adventures in Screen Trade. He walks through. This is his process for writing a script. He picks. He says he always writes for Bogart and Hepburn.
Oh,
Those are his like when he thinks about dialogue for characters.
huh.
That's where he starts. And I kind of probably do the same with Cary Grant being my like base hero
Uh-huh.
character.
Yeah, that's not that's not bad.
So, Great Waldo Pepper, when did you first see the movie?
I probably probably when it first came out, I mean, check out the white hair. So, I
Silver Fox.
yeah, well, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know exactly when I saw it, but I do remember it did I loved it, and then, you just sometimes you just sort of um, it's always in the back of your mind,
Hmm.
yeah, but you just don't go back and watch these films until one night, you feel like, well, there's really nothing on Netflix or Amazon Prime or, hey, let's, because my wife and I really enjoy the classic movies
Hmm.
more than the newer ones. And we just said, well, let's try this. I mean, we were going through the 70s, I think, phase for a while. And that was a few months ago. And it just, once again, when you see the the flight sequences,
Hmm.
scene, it just like they that's really him, getting out of the plane. I don't want
Someone's
to.
actually wing walking there.
Someone's yeah, yeah, and of course, I grew up. I saw a lot of wing walkers. I actually flew with a wing walker and did some aerobatics with a pilot years ago. I can tell you that story if you want, but to know that like Bo Svensson, who would he was a pretty popular actor in the 70s and 80s. When you see him actually getting out of the cockpit, and, he really did that. That was really him. I don't know how far out on the wing he went, but he got out of the cockpit. And hats off to him for so
I don't know how true this is. I read that I read the IMDb trivia on the film, and apparently the original idea had been Bo's character was going to be played by Paul Newman. Now,
oh
that could just be internet rumor because
yeah,
let's face it, Robert Redford and Paul Newman did the other stuff with George Roy Hill, but that's what the rumor is at least. I
um,
don't know if it would have the same effect
yeah,
because I feel like the film really works on Robert Redford is almost playing the supporting character in this movie, with the main character is the aviation. Like that's
yes,
one of my
yeah,
main takeaways in this movie was the story and plot is secondary to this is a film to see flight and to see it
yes,
as it
yes,
was, to see
right,
it really realized because they took actual they tried making these they adjusted a few planes that, according to again just what I read online,
yeah,
they
yeah,
adjusted a few planes to fit looking like the planes then, but they're still the older planes. These are not
yeah,
like just throwing a new chassis on a different motor. This
right.
is they tried to take the old planes and turn them into let's run them today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you get around an old airplane like a Jenny, and uh, and even the Sopwith Camel that's in it, and when you get up close, and if you have my dad, I think we talked about this before. My dad built an airplane in our
Hmm.
garage, and it's it's wood and it's cloth and it's glue and it's like there's not much to these things. You could easily put your finger through the wing or through
The
the
moment
fuselage. You
Bo
know,
walks on the wing and you see his foot just drop through the wing, I was
absolutely.
like, oh no.
Yes, it's so there's not much to these things. So when you think about that, and then you see these actors and the stunt crew who actually, intentionally, we're going to crash this plane. It's like, well, okay. Hope you brought your football helmet because this is going to hurt.
The scene at the beginning where so Robert Redford shows up as Bo Svensson is doing his like come watch my stunts, put money in the hat thing.
Yes.
and they have like the little back and forth. I'm like, this is classic Goldman.
Yes.
And then Bo's plane goes up, the wheels fall off,
Right.
and Robert Redford's like, "Oh, he's gonna have to crash in the pond.
Right.
Here, fill the hat, fill the hat. We need to
Right.
like raise money for this
Yeah.
stunt. He needs a new
But
plane."
but I really feel there is some realism to that scene. I can just picture that's what those pilots would have done back then.
Hmm.
It was going to air shows, knowing all these, the pilots of my age, or my era, that was when it was back in the 70s and 80s. They would have done that.
Yeah.
It's they're there to thrill, but they're also there to these are not rich people, but let's pass the hat and let's make some money on this. We are risking our lives and we're putting on a show, and they're hustling.
Hmm. Okay. Thing that I did not think as much about it when I was watching the film, but it was an observation my wife had. One of the things that this film captures really great is these are people who are trying to reintegrate after the war.
Yes,
And they're not going about the traditional way. And we are also, this is the end of the Roaring Twenties. We are
right,
seeing the tip of depression on the horizon, especially since this
right.
film spans from, I think, 1927 to 1931.
Mhm.
So the crashes in 29. We're getting
Yep,
that gamut. And this another thing I really enjoy about barnstorming is as a culture, a lot of it was going across the middle states.
yes,
As
yeah,
much as this very much each coast had their vibes and had air shows, etc. Really, the money was you go from small Midwest town to small Midwest town to small
right,
Midwest town,
yeah,
trying to get people interested in seeing your stunts. Which,
yeah.
as a Midwesterner, I really appreciate because, like, oh, that's right, you remember Iowa exists.
Right. And I bet you, you go to a small airport, nearby, you're going to find maybe one of those planes, in a barn, or,
Hmm.
or a hangar that's just, because they're still out there, the barn finds. Um, so
Okay, just before I forget to mention it, there is
yeah,
a scene that took my breath away. It's fairly early in the film. I like this stunt because it's one that I actually researched. I'm gonna write a Mitch Mayhew story where he does this. They're driving on the car
yeah,
and he's trying to like grab the ladder. And Susan Sarandon, who's driving the car, is like, guys, this isn't good. And he grabs on anyway and then slams into the
yes,
barn. It was like,
yeah.
oh wow, they're not pulling punches.
No, they aren't. And I've seen some old footage of some planes that did go into some barns. So, not necessarily just, the pilot or the, stunt guy, hitting it, but there were some planes that that hit the barn. So, but one of the scenes that really I connected with is
Hmm.
there is a scene with the monoplane and they wanted
Yes.
to do the outside loop.
Hmm.
Well, that was performed by, the legendary pilot, um, aerobatic pilot Art Scholl.
Hmm.
And Art Scholl was a friend of our families.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, he was a friend of our families. And he was actually the pilot that Top Gun was dedicated to because he lost his life during
Mm.
Top Gun. He was doing some aerial footage and didn't make it. And he was flying, I think he was flying a Pitts, a small biplane with a camera on it. And he was over the Pacific Ocean and radioed in and he said, I've got a problem. I've got a real big problem. And that was it. And they never found him again.
Ugh.
But he was a friend of the family's. We knew him quite well, and he actually one day we were in the Rockford air show, and this was before Oshkosh.
Hmm.
And he asked me to get inside his de Havilland Chipmunk and put on the brakes, and it's like I just sat there in his cockpit, which is now hanging in the Smithsonian Air Museum.
Oh,
And
that's
I'm just
cool.
like, I'm not getting out of this thing. But but to see him fly, and he had a pretty big, significant role in this movie.
Hmm.
It was like, oh, that's art.
Yeah, and it brings a little too close to home. There's that line in because by the end of the film, since Waldo for various reasons, isn't flying in the air shows anymore. They relocate to Hollywood, and I love that integration
Right.
there.
Right.
But they make the comment when they're shooting the aerial film. They're like, two people have already died making this movie. We just need let's not kill
Yeah.
any other people. And it's
Right.
like, oh, the sad part is that that wasn't that uncommon, especially in
That's
1930s
true.
Hollywood, let alone today. Still
Yeah.
happens.
But I also like the line, but let's keep the cameras rolling.
If they're gonna kill each other, we might as well get
Yeah,
it on film.
exactly. So,
Okay, a
yeah.
couple of movie things that I, as a big film fan, enjoyed. The Universal logo at the beginning of this film
Oh,
is
yeah.
the classic Universal Studios logo.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
It just warmed my heart, and I had just watched Creature from the Black Lagoon recently. So it has that era of the Universal logo. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, just nostalgia fills,
Yeah.
warms my heart.
Yeah. Terrence, I'm getting the feeling that you're an old soul.
I am. And then
Yeah.
the other was they had, I don't know why they didn't use Universal, but I assume it's just because the arch for Paramount is so iconic at this point.
Yeah.
They have the shot where we go to Hollywood, they show the Paramount arch for Paramount
Right.
Studios, which I have done that studio tour. It is so cool. Every time I see an old movie or a TV show where they're like, "Oh, it's 1930s Hollywood,"
Right.
and you
Yeah.
see they're clearly using the Paramount
Yeah.
studio lot.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was again. Oh, and the costumes are Edith Head.
Right. Oh, yeah. My wife, I mean, we always like will watch the opening credits of these older films because Edith Head, I mean, iconic. Uh, and just it's like, wow, okay, it's a good film that it's got the reputation or earned its wings, so to speak, if Edith Head is in it. And
Well,
and Henry Mancini
yes,
did
Henry
music.
Mancini did the music.
Yeah. So, well, I
Really,
mean,
this film had so much talent
yeah, yes,
baked into it. And it shows in every single frame of this movie
yes.
is just I sat back and I went, this is perfect. I looked at my wife and went, I want a white scarf now for
Right.
my
Yeah.
we're gonna have to do some Mitch Mayhew photos eventually. Like, let's just get the
Yeah.
white scarf.
Yeah. Well, my brother actually, I believe, we used to have it at the house, the old the leather
The
I
helmet.
the helmet. And I believe my brother still has it. Maybe he pulls it out for Halloween every now and then. But it's a classic and just, some of these old things from that era are just great.
Well, and so I read a book on I can't remember what it was specifically called, but it's basically about Lindbergh, Jimmy Doolittle,
Hmm.
and Eddie Rickenbacker.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the whole point was just seeing how aviation within their lifetime just changed. And we
Oh,
go from that earliest of starts to World War II. Really, that's not that much time to see this huge shift in going
oh,
from
yeah.
these small, lack of a better term, paper planes to
Right.
these mechanized war machines, tanks in the sky that they started building by the time we get to World War
Oh,
II.
yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So this leads me before I'd really like to get this into the show so people can maybe check them out is two books that I just
Hmm.
find absolutely fascinating. One is Rickenbacker, the
Hmm.
autobiography of Eddie
Ooh.
Rickenbacker.
Hmm.
If you haven't read it, or if you don't know who Eddie Rickenbacker is, he was the top ace of World War One for the United States. Sopwith Camel, Hat in the Ring Squadron,
Hmm.
and he went on later to have his own car company. He
He
owned the
owned the
airline.
Speedway, isn't it?
That's
The
right.
Indianapolis Speedway. He was the owner
Yeah,
for a while.
yeah, absolutely. So he built his own cars. He raced cars. He but there's also a movie about him and Ed Fred McMurray played him because
Oh.
uh, he went down in
Hmm.
World War II and he was lost at sea with a couple of other 4 or 5 other um, soldiers. And he was lost at sea, I think, for 28 days. But his book, his autobiography, is spectacular. And my grandmother at the time, um, she got me a signed autographed copy for my 10th birthday.
That is
And
so
yeah,
cool.
so if you haven't heard of Eddie Rickenbacker, if you haven't read his book, I highly recommend it. And the next book, and then we can get back to the is I brought up General McPeak
Hmm.
several times now, and I cannot uh, recommend his book Hanger Flying enough, because if you want, he was the former chief of staff of the Air Force for George Bush and Clinton, but he was also a Thunderbird pilot.
Hmm.
And if you want to know what it's like to sit in the cockpit when you're going, Mach 1, Mach 2, and then also being a Thunderbird pilot, this is the book. And it's a whole lot more, but this book is about flying and what it feels like to sit in there. And he was the first Thunderbird soloist to eject during an air show.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, those are the two books I recommend. I just wanted to get that out there because
This is the reading list listed in the show notes. People definitely need to check out these books.
terrific.
Uh, with, I think at this point, I want to talk a little bit about spoilers because
Yeah,
I went into this movie expecting some of it. So, spoiler warning, anyone
yeah,
that
yeah,
doesn't want
right.
a film from 1975 to be spoiled, don't listen past this point. Watch the film, come back, hit play. I knew from reading Goldman's book that Susan Sarandon's character dies. I
Mm,
did not, because he attributes that to why the movie did not have a lot of success. He's like, we tried presenting from the very start. People died doing this.
yeah.
And then when she dies, there was this audience drop off from what
Oh, is that right?
his that's what his take on it was and
Okay.
what the Hollywood whatever that assessed the film. I did not feel that as like it feels stark. It feels all of a sudden like, wow, we just went from here to here very quickly. But that wasn't the thing that just took me out of it as much as when Ezra dies, Edward Herman. He tries the outside loop a couple of
Right.
times, and then all of a sudden he crashes. I genuinely thought he was going to get pulled out, and that the
Mm,
cigarette thing was just a comment of, oh, like this is a worry of the time.
yeah.
When he's on fire, I was like, oh my
Mm,
goodness.
yeah. Yeah.
I was not expecting that. And it immediately brought home just the gravity, no pun intended, of
Yeah.
everything in this film.
Right, right. And for me, that just really, growing up, like I said, going to so many
Hmm.
air shows, growing up, is that was the realism. And that's what really, if that what
Hmm.
didn't happen, it would just be kind of like another Hollywood,
Yeah.
like, okay, we're just, we're playing it safe.
Hmm.
But those things really happen. And with the Susan Sarandon character, you know, I could actually feel her freezing. Have you
Hmm.
ever been in a situation where, you go into something and then you actually seize up and it's like you can't move. Uh,
Yeah. Me
um,
skiing for the first time.
yeah, yeah. Well, so, for people that don't know, I used to be in television production,
Hmm.
and I used to do some documentaries, and I used to do some pretty in, random, interesting things. And one of the things I did was I went to the top of the Golden Gate Bridge, the
Oh.
very the very tip top. And when you're up there, there's a little ladder that goes up to the crow's nest or whatever it's called, and there's wind up there, and it's you can get up to 60 miles an hour, I believe, or depending on the day. And when you're climbing up, it's sort of like you don't feel the grip. You don't feel
Hmm.
like, you're holding on to something climbing up. It's like you have no sense for some reason. And one of the people I was with, like, he didn't freeze, but it was close. And that just sort of brought that back to me, like, okay, you're out of your element.
Hmm.
And so I could relate that to the Susan Sarandon character of, like, okay, she's way overhead. And then when she got it back together, she reached out and you know.
I was, I think the thing that just surprised me is the tension. The thing that surprised me in that scene was how sudden it was because I think I'm just used to at this point. The Hollywood thing is she's wearing gloves. He grabs her hand, the glove slips off.
Yeah.
And, but it doesn't, it's literally, you think that he's literally grasping to save her. And then it's just gone.
Yeah.
And
And I like the way that they directed it,
mhm.
how
Oh, it's so good. It's so well
she was
done.
here and then she wasn't, and that's the
Hmm.
way it would be. It wasn't like,
Hmm.
lingering you know,
We don't
shots
have a Wilhelm scream.
right, yeah.
It's
It
not
was
played
just
for laughs.
right. Yeah. But not even, they didn't hold on the facial
Hmm.
reaction shots. They just for very long. It was just she's there and okay, but she's gone. So very well directed.
Hmm. Oh, I genuinely think George Roy Hill, I was reminded films, there are certain films in the 70s that just look gorgeous. Like we get this again, I feel like in the 90s, with obviously like um Spielberg.
Yes.
Spielberg is an excellent example of this crisp cinematic filmmaking. However, the blockbuster then becomes the way that it's shot.
Mhm.
This movie it's gorgeously made. The
Yes.
lingering shots of every time they're at the farm
Oh,
really
yes.
bring
Yeah.
home to this is the ground when so much is in the air. And I think it also establishes
No, that's true. Yeah.
Waldo's perspective. Like, I think that's what helps. The ending is tough,
Yeah.
but
Oh, yeah.
you really have to build up to it. And I think that, again, I mean, this is Goldman, the scriptwriter. There's he's literally like the perfect screenwriter. Of all screenwriters, he's probably one of the ones that has the most Academy Awards,
Mm.
maybe. Just like in general, his films are generally well regarded and highly rewatchable because he writes good scripts. He manages to balance the character arc of Waldo in this film,
Oh, yeah.
where
Yeah.
you see him look for that fight that he never got to have.
Right.
He,
Well, also, okay, so
yeah,
if
go
we can
ahead.
just talk about this one scene where in the beginning he sets it up to where he was this pilot and he was in this battle and then it turns out, he's at the restaurant with the Susan Sarandon character. I can't remember her name.
Mary Beth.
Mary Beth and the Bo Svensson character calls him out on it.
Uh-huh.
And the way Robert Redford just sort of like just he was speechless, but you could read in his in
Hmm.
into it like I'm called out. I got busted. Here I
Hmm.
am. They walk away, and he's just sitting at the table like, that's what you would do if
Hmm.
know,
And doesn't he say it should have been me?
something like that. Yeah, it
Yeah.
should have been me. Yeah. And so yeah, what kind of guy this is, and this is what he wanted, and this is what he got.
Well, okay, so when we get to Hollywood, so after the casualties in the film, basically Waldo just kind of has a breakdown. He grabs a plane and destroys the flying circus that they were in one of those great, this is a genuine reaction to absolute rage and wanting to tear it all down. And either he's insane or the chutzpah when he goes back to the dude later and is like, "So let's start up again. I'm here to get a job."
Right.
And he's like, "Are you crazy?"
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, I also want to do a quick shout out to the actor that plays. I'm trying. His name was like Newt.
Hmm.
He is Newt Potts.
Oh,
Jeffrey Lewis. He is
oh,
a
right.
phenomenal character actor. You've seen him in just about
Yeah.
everything.
He
But
was in a few Clint Eastwood movies.
yes,
Right.
the
And
thing that,
his daughter is an actress as
oh,
well. I can't remember her. Juliette Lewis.
Juliette Lewis,
Right.
good
Right.
job.
But yeah,
Wow.
he's been in so many. He was perfect.
Oh, I love it. So he shows up because he basically tells Waldo, because of the accidents, because of his rampage,
Yeah.
he is permanently grounded. If he tries flying, he goes to prison. Federal offense.
Right.
Sorry. But if you want a job, I'm happy to like hire you to be a desk position.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, thank you. Well, then he shows up at the end of the movie to like, uh, because he knows it's Waldo that's going back in the air, but
Yeah.
he lets him get this last flight
Yeah.
and he's still rooting for him. But the thing I always remember Jeffrey Lewis from is Maverick, which is also a William Goldman script.
Oh. Oh, is
1995,
that
he
right?
plays the banker who Mel Gibson's Maverick is like,
Oh.
I need you to pay me back. He's like, oh, sorry, I don't have any money left. He's got this fake Irish accent. And he like tries giving him like a dollar coin. He's like, I won't take your last dollar. And then, um, what's his face? Guy from Lethal Weapon who plays opposite Mel Gibson. Danny
Uh,
Glover
yeah.
shows
Yes.
up and it robs them and takes like the banker's actual money. And Mel Gibson's just like, I thought you lied to me. I can't believe this. Skip, you told me you had no money. Well, now I don't have any money. Like again,
Uh,
my point being, Jeffrey Lewis is a phenomenal character actor,
yeah.
and anytime I see him in a movie, it just warms my heart. And he is, again, fun in this film.
Right. Well, also, to have him as a supporting actor in a film, once again, tells you how good the movie is. It's
Hmm.
just like, okay, this is they're front loading this movie. Even the character actors are top notch.
Hmm. So so they get to Hollywood and there's a film that they're making. At first they're just doing stunts, which I was like, "Oh, what a perfect like transition for their career to go from aerial stunts to now a stunt man." I start hearing like the Fall Guy music play in the back of my head and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Makes perfect sense." But then there is a aviation film that is being worked on, and Waldo's eyes the moment he hears that
Oh
there's a
yeah.
movie being made. He doesn't
Yeah.
care what the film is about. He doesn't realize until he sees the types of planes
Yeah.
because there's the Fokker that
Yep.
is says Lola on it. He's like, "What? Wait, what is
Yeah.
this story?" Because this is
Uh-huh.
the story that he was telling at the beginning of the movie,
Yep.
and he was called out on not actually being there.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It just yeah, I mean, this is his dream come true. And then when he meets Ernst, can you imagine? Can you imagine? This is the guy who, you've spent your adult life dreaming of, every night of wishing to be in that battle, with this guy. And there he is.
I was trying to. What's the actor's name who plays Ernst? I'm
You
trying
know,
to.
I can't remember, but I heard that was his first American movie, is what I think I read.
He again phenomenal because
Yeah.
he gives this unique like mirror to Waldo in some ways, where he was the
Right.
successful aviator, and yet in the war he was this successful wartime aviator, and yet he still was doing the flying circuses.
Right.
Yet I love the moment where Bo says, "I'm getting $500 to do this stunt," and he's like, "And that will bring my net worth up to $250."
Yes.
And I'm like, "Oh, Goldman, what a
Yeah.
line!"
No, he's just, yeah, Goldman is the best. He's just the best. Yeah.
But then Ernst is like, "You who think that's bad? I am $40,000 in debt."
Oh, right.
And they're like, how did that happen? He's like, it
Yeah.
happens. He's like, when you're
Yeah.
when and then he describes being in the air. And I feel like that's the moment that solidifies what we get in the end of the film. He
Yeah.
describes when he's in the air, just the experience of feeling like everything is clear. Everything can
Right.
be seen, everything can be understood. You know who your enemies are and are not, and you're just flying. Versus
Right.
when you get on the ground and then life gets complicated.
Well, this is, flying is you know, people are just born to it. They're just
Hmm.
drawn to it. It's in their blood. I've been with so many pilots, and that's what they love to do. Um, once again, I'm friends with General McPeak, and um, it's all about flying. Sure, he was the chief of staff. He did all these other fantastic, but to him, I get the impression, I don't want to speak for him, but he, it's, it, his place is in the air.
Hmm.
It's just, And that's what I got from Waldo. That's what I got from Ernst Kessler is yeah, you can, you know, being on the ground, okay, but I'm just waiting to get up in the air. That's where I belong, and that's what you get a sense of in this movie. This, it's sort of like these extreme sports guys that you see from the wingsuits, and
Yeah.
like that's what they love to do. It's like I would never do that, but I mean, they can't wait to get up there again.
I I really enjoyed just the beauty of this movie
Oh,
because again, all the shots are gorgeous. The aviation stunts are beyond compare. And it's one of those things that just it's a good period drama. Because
right.
again, I love how the undercurrent of all of this amazing aviation stuff is. Because I think we've talked about both a little bit on the show and off the show that in some aviation circles, the morning of the golden age of aviation, really that's kind of what we see here is that the Wild West days are over. Now
Yes.
it's time to take responsibility. Now it's time to license. You have to meet codes. I love that moment where they're like, "What are you gonna do? Build highways in the sky?" And they're like, "Yes, we're going to."
Right. Well, also, now, my dad had a plane in the 70s. He built it in our garage. And we went to all these different air shows. And like I said, I did see the replicas of the Fokker,
Hmm.
triplane. And I saw, the Sopwith Camels, and I saw them fly. I saw Art Scholl, and I saw Myra Slovak, who did the Lomslovak. And if you
Hmm.
haven't seen that, look that up, because that's Czechoslovakian for headaches. And that's one of the greatest aerobatic
Okay.
maneuver ever. But so when you see all these different planes, and when you go to an air show now, there just isn't the home builds and the antiques that was there when I was coming up. And I'm talking to my brother about it because he had his own plane, and he just said it's so expensive now that you don't see the sport aviation as much.
Hmm.
And so it's just an extension of the great, Waldo Pepper era. It's dwindling now.
Hmm.
So now I would love to see these old planes back up in the air. Now they're in museums.
Hmm.
But wouldn't it be something to go outside right now and, to see a home built or something besides I mean, it's great that Cessnas and Pipers are up there, but
Yeah.
wouldn't it be great to see a warplane fly by, or because that's the way it used to be. And,
The
those
scene
are the
where
old days.
the scene where they fly down through the town and Susan
Right.
Sarandon's like holding on.
Yeah.
Until it goes bad, it's really just a cool this is what they used
Yeah.
to do to advertise. We've got
Yeah.
this flying circus coming to town. Is they just run through.
Yeah. Well, there was a guy, I can't remember his name. He billed himself as professor or something or other, and he pretended he got into like an old uh, oh gosh, I can't even, like a piper or something. And he pretended like he was a professor, but he was also kind of drunk, and he'd get up there and do wacky things. And I th and
Oh
they
yeah,
had
I think I've seen the photos.
right. And I think at one point there was a car that had a platform on the roof, and he actually landed, his Piper on the roof of a car. And, as it drove by, I mean, these are great, so these are the daredevils that did this back then. And, you know, I don't know if the FAA would let you do these sort of things anymore. I haven't seen it for a while.
I am glad though that I feel like this does live on a bit in film and in the
Mhm.
film industry, where like yes, there are regulations around like trying to maintain safety for stunt people,
Yeah,
but Hollywood has become this like refuge where if it's for a movie, you can probably try doing it.
right. Yeah. But
Whereas
yeah.
the
But the
average
thing,
person, yeah,
yeah. But I think that, in this day, so many people, it would be easier just to do it with CGI.
yeah.
And, that just doesn't hit you as well. Like I was just thinking about this a few seconds of a few minutes ago is, um, this was shot in the 70s,
Hmm.
and the film stock that they used, is not what they
Hmm.
use today, except with the exception of uh, Quentin Tarantino,
Yes.
didn't he use that with once a
Once
time
Upon
in
a Time in Hollywood. Yep.
right? And didn't that feel good?
Oh, it
It just
did.
because nowadays, when you turn on something on Netflix or something, it all kind of feels the same, and there's just sort of, but when you
Yeah.
see a '70s film,
Hmm.
like Goldman's, Waldo Pepper or Butch Cassidy, that film stock,
Hmm.
it makes you feel like I don't know, it just touches you a little bit deeper, I think, and the experience is a little richer.
Hmm. I think
So
there's
thank you, Quentin Tarantino, for bringing that back.
okay, so one of I don't think Tarantino is he's definitely not the director because he's always saying he's only gonna make one more movie.
Yeah,
But they're making a Booth movie which stars Brad Pitt. It's gonna be a
yes,
spin-off with him as like a stunt guy.
yeah. Oh,
And I'm hoping if they're able to bring the same aesthetic that they were able to bring to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I
yeah.
am their hook, line, and sinker.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't
Yeah,
did
absolutely.
did you catch F1 by chance? The
I haven't seen it yet.
It's directed by the same guy that did Top Gun Maverick. The
Oh, okay.
story is fairly by the numbers, but the
Uh,
visuals, because they
okay.
actually stuck the camera in the cars the same way they did when they did Top Gun Maverick, it's genuinely a beautiful movie, like
Okay.
well done, et cetera, et cetera. Which I think again is part of what really attracts you and I to the Great Waldo Pepper is that it's got a reality to it
Yeah.
that movies strive for, but especially in a very CGI heavy world, and that we're even getting to the point where how much of that is even going to be a person making this? Because with AI coming into the picture, now you just type the things in and it creates rather
Yeah.
than someone actually having to create it themselves. It's
Right.
just, it is sad that we're moving farther and farther away from what is reality. And a film
Yes.
like this, no pun intended, helps us ground
Yeah.
to what is real and what is not.
Right. Well, didn't you just love how the director put his camera shots, and particularly in the airplanes, where you just saw the back of the pilot's head,
Hmm.
but you knew they were flying. You felt like you were in the plane in the back
Hmm.
seat, and especially when they were doing, some of the dives and the rolls, and it just, yeah, you felt like you were there. So the director just, he nailed it.
George Roy Hill is best known for Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, The Sting, and oh wow, I didn't know he did Slaughterhouse Five.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like again, he is
Yeah.
one of those. I would say he doesn't get talked about in the same like conversations with Hitchcock, but I think it's because the same reason why I'm a big James Mangold fan overall,
Yeah. Yeah.
because he makes a movie, and he
Mhm.
doesn't let his style get in the way of making a good movie. Whereas I love Christopher Nolan. I can never watch a movie and not go, "Oh, that's Christopher Nolan film." Whereas I do feel like with Mangold, I can go, "Oh, this is this movie. Oh, it's directed by James Mangold." The same way I think that Roy George Roy Hill
Yes.
was able to direct a movie and not make him being the director the first and most important thing. I feel like that's a level of humility in Hollywood that exists less and less.
Yeah.
But here in this film and in the 70s, you had a really good string of that.
Yeah. Well, when we about the time, a few months ago when my wife and I watched this film, we also watched Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Hmm.
And that led me, I like to get on YouTube and go the making of these movies. And there is a documentary on the making of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid where it does show, George Roy Hill and his process. So, if you're
I'll have
interested
to
in,
check it out.
yeah, it's terrific. It just,
I I was telling Faith that we need to watch Butch Cassidy next
oh,
because I like this movie a lot. I love Butch Cassidy just because it's you get Paul Newman and
oh yeah,
Robert Redford. I think maybe that's something I do feel a little lackey in this film is that there isn't someone to bounce off Redford the way
oh,
that um, Newman did, and that's why even if they replaced Bo with Newman, I don't think you have the same thing because the dynamics for the characters are just so different.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. But
again, so incredibly cool. Like again, The Ezra's flying a monoplane. Monoplanes were experimental at this time. He laughs. Redford laughs at Ezra for
Yeah.
suggesting a monoplane because it's a terrible idea. Yet most of what is flown
Yeah.
today commercially are monoplanes.
Well, okay, so I'm going to be careful here, but I'm going to
Please feel free to correct me.
no, I'm going to be
Yeah.
careful here with not giving a spoiler, but uh, in the beginning of this conversation, I brought up the Blue Max.
Hmm.
Well, the Blue Max has something to do with a monoplane.
Okay.
Oh, and remember, so this was, Waldo Pepper was what, in the 20s,
Hmm.
and this is a little bit later on, but you're going to want to watch the Blue Max. So,
Okay, just looking at the when I search on Google and I see the pictures from this movie, I'm like, yes, this is right up my alley. 1966, we've got George Papard, who I'm a big A-Team fan.
yeah.
Shocking, I know. Um, but I love it when a plan comes together and watching George Papard on screen as
Well, also,
badasses.
James Mason,
Hmm.
remember he was also in North by Northwest, if you're a Cary
That's
Grant fan.
right.
So,
Yes.
not a very nice guy. So, yeah, this is one you're going to want to watch.
Of all the scenes in Great Waldo Pepper, what do
Yeah.
you think is your favorite scene? Or what's your favorite moment?
Uh, wow, that's a tough question. Um, I think it was the ending flights, the
Hmm.
dogfight. How could you not like feel like your heart just starts pounding a little, a little faster. It's like, what are they going to do next? And then, when they hit, hit each other. And because, I thought in my mind when I saw it a few months ago, I thought, wait a minute, they didn't use actual bullets because that,
Hmm.
okay, so how did they, oh yeah, that's right. They rammed each other. And it's like, oh gosh,
Well, I love how that scene escalates the tension, where at first they're dogfighting, it looks like they're basically just mock dogfighting without bullets.
yeah,
And then the first hit comes in, and
yeah,
everyone on the ground, at first they're like, what are they? Oh, they're dogfighting, whatever. And then
yeah,
like, oh no, they're going completely off script. This is
yeah.
going to turn
Well,
bloody.
they almost kind of gave you, a hint when they took off their parachutes. It
Yeah.
was like, okay,
Because literally beforehand, he had said, the director's like, I know you guys didn't wear them in the war, but we don't want more people to die. Please just wear the stupid
yeah,
parachutes. And they're
yeah,
both like, uh-huh. Mhm."
yeah, yeah. And then it's like, you know what? We're gonna do this for real, and we're gonna do it. So,
I think my favorite scene is in the beginning when he does that thing with Bo, and it's just that it's a beautiful little, I can see that as a short story somewhere, but the end is so poignant.
yeah,
I did have that where I'm like, what actually happens at the end as he starts to fly away, and then we get that final panel, and I'm
yeah,
like, oh, okay, wow, yeah. And I think it's a good wraparound for
yeah,
it sets up at the beginning, all these people die. That barnstorming was not a long careered thing. It's not something where you think and live for the future. You are living for the stunt and the moment
right.
in
Well,
most
oh,
cases.
yeah. Well, also, uh, going back to one of my favorite scenes that you might say, it just occurred to me when they flew through town,
Hmm.
very, what, just 3 or 4 feet off the ground in a real town. It's like, okay, so that's right there. How did they get the permits to do that? And because that was a real town. That wasn't like they
Hmm.
built this for the movie. That was for real. And that was just spectacular. So that
Hmm.
was another great scene.
I
So
th
my question
yeah.
to you,
Hmm.
Terrence, is now that you've watched this film, is it going to influence the next?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
That's
I think that what I like is how many. I know it sounds crazy, but I feel like I my favorite part is knowing how many things I got before. I think
yeah,
there are elements of Mitch baked in. I think my favorite line that I wrote in Diamonds in Denver is Mitch was a man of the present. He did not think about his future and did not
right.
regret the past. I I feel like that is Waldo Pepper's
That is, yeah, that is.
attitude. And I'm grateful that that is something already baked in. But there are definitely a few moments in this movie where I was like, yes. Example, I really do want to. I already started drafting
Yeah.
him at a fair, barnstorming, just as a
Oh,
short story.
yeah,
I'm gonna finish that short story, and the stunt is going to be him grabbing, going from the car to the plane.
yeah,
And I think that will be a fun tease to
yeah.
build.
No, no, I can see it already. I mean, you did such a good job with Unwanted Passenger
Oh,
and
thank you.
to bring that feeling back. And then, like I said, continuing, with Diamonds in Denver, it's just yeah, it is, if you watch Waldo Pepper, you got to read the books. If you read the books, you got to watch Waldo Pepper. So you did really like, you know, you put them together very, very nicely. So,
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Gene, this has been a fun conversation.
it really has.
Where can people go to learn more about you, your book, get their copy of Another Try?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have a website, genekoon.com.
Hmm.
And for those, you can contact me through the website, and I like to respond to, everyone who writes. I'll write back. And this my like I said, the book is on sale right now, and
Hmm.
and that's great. Amazon is doing that. Because for me, I think it's a fun book, and I just
Hmm.
want people, would like to read it. Library. The audiobook is terrific.
The audiobook is fantastic.
The audiobook, yeah, just Richard Poe, who did Angels and Demons and um, Elmore Leonard, several Elmore
Hmm.
Leonard, and Cormac McCarthy. He did a terrific job. Um, so so yeah, you can contact me through the website, and of course, I'm on social media as well, and just trying to get people to read it. And I'm working on the next one.
Yes.
And it's coming along, and it's some people are back, some characters are back, and it is set in Portland and Eastern Oregon as well. So we're working on that, and hopefully it'll be out not too long from now, but it's coming.
Awesome. Well, when it comes out, we'll have to have you on the show again, definitely to talk about
Oh
it.
yeah, love it.
I will link all your stuff in the show notes. Gene, thank you again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Terrence.